gonna show you how to make a Senora shake. First, you're gonna need 1 scoop of ice, a pint of ice cream, and some Beetlejuice. Mix it up. Oh, looks like it's ready. But first, we're gonna outline our glass with some moss. There you have it, a Senora shake.
So we all like to think that we make thoughtful, intelligent decisions, but the truth is we don't. We make emotional decisions, and then we use our intellect, our thoughtfulness, to come up with reasons to justify our decisions. And so, because we make decisions emotionally, one of the best ways to really communicate with people is story. And Jesus knew this. And so Jesus would tell these little teaching stories. We call them parables. And one of the interesting things about the parables is they would often kind of lead you one way and then they would take a turn. I always think of it, it's kind of like a judo throw where you get somebody's weight going one way and then you use that weight to flip them, to throw them, to surprise them. And Jesus would do that with his storytelling. And so I want to share with you today the parable of the prodigal son. So there was once a father who had 2 sons. Now the younger son came to him and said, "Hey, I want you to just give me all the money that I'm gonna get at my inheritance. Just give it to me now. So let's just pretend that you're dead and give me the money that I would get, and let's do that." And so the father actually did that. He divided his inheritance that his sons would get during his life, and he gave the older and younger son their money. And he left and went to a far away country. And he went out and he just spent all the money on wild living, wine, women, song. He partied it up. He had party friends. He did all of that stuff. But soon after that, a famine came to that country. And all of a sudden, he found himself with no money. And of course, with no money, he found himself with no friends. And so he had to get a job. And so he went to one of the people in that land and he hired himself out. He got a job, but it didn't pay much. And he couldn't even really survive on it. And so his job was feeding the pigs. And he was so hungry and he was so without. He even kind of wanted to eat the pig food, the pods that the pigs were eating. He was so hungry he thought about eating it. That's how bad things had gotten for this younger son. So a good storyteller knows their audience, and Jesus knew who he was talking to. He was talking to a group of Hebrew people, and so when they heard this story, there's a couple things that they automatically knew that we may not know. So a couple things. First off, when a younger son goes to the father and asks for the money, what he's asking, he basically is saying, let's just pretend we're dead to each other. Dad, I don't care about you living and dying. All I really care about is the money. Give me the money. And so it's actually getting rid of family, which was a huge deal in the Hebrew culture, that the younger son is saying, I don't even want to be family with you anymore, I just want the money. And so then he takes the money and he goes off to a foreign land. And that was a big deal to Hebrews. Hebrews had the promised land that God had given them. So he's not only leaving the family, but he leaves the promised land that God had given. And he goes out and he spends all the money, wine, women, song, right? And that was an issue for Hebrews. So the Hebrew people believed in saving money to pass down to the next generation. Everything was about what you could pass to the next generation. And so this younger son doesn't do that. He's selfish and self-absorbed, and he just thinks about spending the money on himself. And then we find he ends up working with pigs. And so for the Hebrews, working with swine actually made them ritually unclean, which meant he couldn't go to God in worship. He couldn't go to the temple, that he would have to be purified first. And so what we see is the younger son is abandoning his father and his father's house. His father's house was his whole way of life, everything he knew. He abandons his father's house, but he even abandons his relationship with God. And so this younger son has really gone off the rails, and it's gone about as bad could be for a Hebrew hearing this story. So one day the younger son realizes, he says to himself, this is pretty bad. You know, I could go to my father's house. Man, the people that work for my father, they live better than this. Man, I could go back and say, don't treat me as a son, but at least hire me as a hired hand But when he's down the road, his dad sees him when he's a long way off, and what you realize is the father has been waiting to see the son. Like the father's been waiting on the front porch every day since the younger son has left, and the father's waiting to see the son, and he runs out to him. He doesn't just see him, he runs out to him, and he hugs him and he kisses him. And cut. So you expect the father to run out and to criticize him, to say, I told you so, to be harsh to him, to be mean to him. And you should expect that if you're a Hebrew hearer of the story, because I want to share with you what it says in Deuteronomy 21 about how to handle a rebellious child like this younger son. So in Deuteronomy 21 verse 18 it starts, if someone has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother and will not listen to them when they discipline him, his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders at the gate of the town. They shall say to the elders, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious, just like this younger son. He will not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard, just like the younger son. Then all the men of his town are to stone him to death. You must purge all evil from among you. All Israel will hear of it and be afraid. So the father stoning the son is what is expected. In their minds, mercy would have been letting this kid live. But what did the father do? He ran to the son and he hugged him and he kissed him. So again, Hebrew listeners to this story would have understood what the father was doing here. So the best robe was a way of showing honor. Think of Joseph and the robe. It was a way of honoring not just a son, but even a favorite son. So this younger son is blessed and honored even as a revered and favorite son. A ring wasn't just jewelry. A ring would have a symbol on it. It would have like a family kind of symbol, like a crest. It was a way of showing authority. So this son, this rebellious son, is given a ring that says, basically it's like having a power of attorney. That the son speaks for the father. He is a son with power and authority, the power and authority of a father. And then bring the sandals out for his feet. Servants didn't wear sandals. So bringing out sandals says, this is no servant like the son was willing to come and be a servant. He says, this is no servant. This is my true and beloved son. So the father says, go out and kill the fatted calf. This is, again, something the Hebrews would have understood. This is what you do for a sin offering. So the younger son has been alienated from family, but also with God, and the father knew that. And so the father is restoring him not only to the family as a full son, but even helping to restore his relationship with God. The killing the fatted calf, it's for the feast and the party, but it's also before that, they're going to make a sin offering to restore his relationship with God. And so the younger son is truly coming home. So the older son, he's out in the field, he's out working, and he hears all the partying going on. And so he calls one of the servants, he said, hey, what's the deal? And he says, oh, you didn't know? Your brother's back, and your dad is having a huge party to celebrate. And what does the older brother do? Does he celebrate that his brother's back? Of course not. What does he do? He gets angry, he gets furious, and he refuses to go back inside. So he's basically outside pouting. And finally, the dad comes out to him, and he just gets angry. He's like, this son of yours, he won't even call him his brother. He's like, this son of yours has wasted all the money. He told you he was dead to you. He did all this stuff, and you welcome him back? And the older son makes this point. He says, man, I've worked for you every day. I've been here working for you, and you've never even given me a goat to have a party with my friends. And yet for this guy, you're going to kill the fatted calf? You're going to celebrate like this? Why don't you love me as much? And so the father is like, we have to celebrate. Your brother was dead, but he is alive again. He was lost, but he's found. Everything I have, everything that is mine, your brother's not going to get that. That's yours. But let's celebrate. And so, you know, it's that this older brother, So this is what we get in this part of the story, is that the older brother is in his father's house, but he isn't home. He isn't doing all this hard work out of love for his father. He's doing it out of self-seeking reward for himself. And so he can't celebrate that his brother has returned, that his father has regained his son. He can't celebrate that because all he's doing is thinking about himself. That even though he's there, he's not home. So in 1 Corinthians 13:2, it says, we can do all these things, but without love, it means nothing. And so even though he's done all this stuff for the Father, he's done it without love. And because of that, he isn't himself truly experiencing what it means to be home. All right, I love that as I've moved around, little stars are now on the paper. It's glitter. So Lydia doesn't feel at home even when she's at home. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. I think a lot of us have felt like we just didn't belong and that things weren't clicking for us. And I think her dad doesn't know how to communicate his love for her, and I don't think she can hear that. I don't know if she knows how to receive and hear and experience his love. And I think this happens a lot for people who are going through loss and grief, like Lydia and her dad have. So in the musical, throughout the musical, we see that she is cared for. She doesn't feel loved, but she is cared for. You know, she runs away. She runs away from home, but the truth is home goes chasing after her, even into the afterlife. And so I wonder if Jesus didn't tell us this story so that we could feel love. Maybe we're the younger brother, maybe we're the older brother, but the truth is maybe we don't feel that we're at home with those in our families, or at home with God. And so Jesus shares this story about the Father with us today. And just remember this, and I think this is the thing that Jesus wanted us to take away from the story. The Father is sitting on the porch. The Father is looking and waiting to welcome you, to invite you, to hold you and to kiss you, and to celebrate that you are